An archaeologist should be expected to make fascinating discoveries, but shouldn't necessarily be expected to understand the full meaning of the things that they find. When they find themselves struggling to understand a discovery, they'll often turn to a colleague in the scientific community for help. But there are some things that scientists can't assist with. In those circumstances, we're left with archaeological mysteries of the type you'll see in this video. In 1865, a 2-year-old schooner from New Zealand called the Daring was dashed on the shore of Muriwai Beach during a storm. The wreck was quickly covered over by mud and sand, but was finally revealed again when the sands shifted in May 2018. It immediately became a vitally important discovery for New Zealand. The ship was made from native wood, using traditional techniques that aren't used anywhere else in the world, and it's a very rare surviving example of those 19th century techniques. Impressively, there were still goods inside the ship when it was revealed. This neckerchief was found inside the bilges and is notable because it's covered in what appear to be Masonic symbols. Other items of interest retrieved from the wreck include clay pipes, coins, and some immaculately well-preserved black leather shoes. The scarf is made of silk and includes images of the menorah, the Star of David, Solomon's Temple, the Masonic Star, and a laurel. The famous Masonic square and compasses are at the center. This would presumably have been a precious possession to its owner, so it's a little strange that it ended up in the bilges. January 2021 was a productive but somewhat morbid time for archaeologists in England because of the discovery of an enormous Anglo-Saxon cemetery in Northamptonshire. Over 150 burials have been identified at the site so far, many of which contain ancient treasures. Some of the artifacts and structures unearthed at the site thus far can be traced back to the Bronze Age, 4,000 years ago. The Anglo-Saxon burials are more recent, dating back around 1,500 years and typically include weapons and jewelry inside the graves. The discovery of the cemetery and its human remains prompted archaeologists to go looking a little further afield for an associated settlement, and they eventually found one nearby. Traces of 42 different structures have been found, ranging in age from the 5th century to the 11th. Among those structures are a further 3 barrows and 4 much older buildings from the Bronze Age. This historically rich site would never have been found at all were it not for exploratory work carried out ahead of the creation of a new housing estate in the Overstone area. So far, more than 2,000 beads, 15 rings, 40 knives, 15 shields, 25 spears, and around 150 brooches have been recovered from the ground, with much more to come. Smoking is a bad habit, but it's also an ancient one. While Europeans might not have discovered the properties of tobacco until they arrived in the Americas, the Mayans were smoking and enjoying it 1,000 years ago. In early 2021, archaeologists reported the discovery of 14 ancient Mayan drug containers, which has allowed us new insights into the recreational habits of this mysterious civilization. The ceramic vessels contain traces of dried, cured tobacco, along with a plant known as Mexican marigold. The plant was probably mixed with the tobacco to make for a more enjoyable smoking experience. Tellingly, there are also traces of other plants in some of the containers, and these plants might have had psychoactive properties. It's known that ancient Mayan shamans experienced visions of the future, which allowed them to make their famous prophecies. It now seems likely that most of those prophecies were written after smoking sessions. While they're a little rustic, the vessels themselves aren't too dissimilar from those used in some illicit smoking activities today. We guess human beings have enjoyed getting high ever since they discovered that getting high was a possibility. When Mount Vesuvius blew its top in the year 79 and buried the nearby town of Pompeii under ash and debris, it was the greatest natural disaster that Italy had ever seen. But it also created the greatest archaeological site that historians have ever known. Archaeologists have been working through the site for well over 200 years, and in December 2018, they made the incredibly rare discovery of the remains of a horse still wearing its harness inside its ancient stable. Based on the evidence at the scene, it's likely that the stable stands on the grounds of the former home of a high-ranking Roman military officer. According to Massimo Ossana, the head of the long-standing archaeological park that's been established at Pompeii, it's likely that the horse came to a terrible end. That's true of everyone and everything that perished in Pompeii that fateful day. Most of Pompeii's wealthy residents had horses, but horses are rare discoveries at the site. Experts think that's probably because the residents would have used their horses in an attempt to escape the catastrophe, some of whom may even have succeeded. We've already known for a long time that some of the world's most ancient and incredible cave art could be found inside the caves of Sulawesi in Indonesia. But in January 2021, we found out that the caves were home to the oldest animal painting in the world. It's a painting of a wild pig, created using red ochre, and it's about 45,500 years old. The painting is realistic and life-sized, and seems to be part of a larger narrative scene painted on the walls of a cave called Liang Tedongna. Aside from being the world's oldest animal painting, this is the oldest evidence of human settlement in the region. Dating the painting was possible thanks to the presence of a calcite deposit that had formed on top of it, which was suitable for the uranium series isotope. The test results confirmed that the deposit was 45,500 years old, but it's possible that the painting could be even older. 2 human handprints are visible above the pig's rear end, which might have been left behind by the artist or artists as a way of signing their work. There were 2 more pigs facing this one on the wall, but sadly they haven't survived the passage of time. They say that good things come in small packages, so we guess this discovery from February 2021 must be extra special. It's a set of lead miniatures that was found inside an imperial-era grave in Alba-la-Romaine, France. The artifacts come from a set of 20 newly discovered graves that were found buried less than 2 feet beneath the surface of a busy crossroads. From the evidence available at the site, it looks like the people who are buried here passed away during the 1st and 2nd centuries. There were grave goods present in all of the graves when they were checked, but these lead miniatures are unlike anything archaeologists have ever seen before. One of them is a tiny pair of sandals hanging from a coat hook, and the other is a set of 4 strigils attached to a ring. The symbolism of the objects is unknown, but may have had something to do with whatever their owners' professions or hobbies were in life. The presence of a round masonry structure at the center of all the burials suggests that this is a family plot. It might be connected to the large Roman villa that was found barely 1,000 feet away from here back in 2005. The mighty ancient city of Tenochtitlan was the capital of the Aztec Empire until Herman Cortés and his Spanish conquistadors came along and conquered it in November 1519. The Spanish invaders destroyed many Aztec monuments and works of art, but they didn't wreck everything, thankfully. Recently, this incredible golden eagle bas-relief was found at the site of Templo Mayor. The large stone carving, 4 feet long and 2 feet wide, is set into the base of Templo Mayor as part of a chapel dedicated to Huitzilopochtli. Archaeologists think it was created during the reign of Moctezuma Ilhuicamina between 1440 and 1469. They already know that Templo Mayor was a sacred place to the Aztecs, and also a focal point for human sacrificial activity. That means the eagle probably got more than a little bloody during the time the temple was in use. While Aztec symbolism is complex and still isn't fully understood today, the eagle was closely connected with both sacrifice and war. It was even believed to be the shape-shifting spirit of the sun, and so would have acted as a protector to Aztec rulers. What does all of this mean in terms of the placement of this specific bas-relief in this specific place? The jury is still out on that. Around 18,000 years ago, a prehistoric resident of France picked up a conch shell and turned it into a musical instrument, specifically a horn. In February 2021, it was finally played again. The horn was first discovered in 1931, close to the entrance of the Maroulas Cave in the foothills of the French Pyrenees. Experts say it's the oldest known conch shell horn in the world, but that's not what it was originally recognized as. Back in the 1930s, experts thought it was a ceremonial drinking vessel. It wasn't until 2016 that the artifact was reappraised and its true nature was revealed. Even then, it took several years to work out whether it would be possible to recreate its sound. Musicologists and wind instrument specialists from the University of Toulouse inspected the conch shell, and scientists tested it to ensure that it wouldn't be damaged by someone blowing through it. But eventually, trumpet player Jean-Michel Court got the all-clear to give it a toot and found that it plays a surprisingly haunting tone. It's likely that the sound was enhanced by being played inside caves, but we'll never know what context it was used in. In early 2017, a discovery was made that changed the established history of the early Slavs. In a cave at the Lani Breklov archaeological site in Czechia, a team of archaeologists from Masaryk University found a few broken pieces of pottery alongside an animal rib, upon which a few runes had been scratched. This is the earliest ever example of Slavs using any kind of written communication, and the discovery came with a surprise. Rather than being written in glagolitic script, which has always been assumed to be the first form of Slavic writing, the bone is inscribed with Germanic runes. Based on radiocarbon dating methods, it appears the cattle bone is around 1,420 years old. The origins of the script go back a little further, dating to around the year 200. Rather than being a coherent message, the inscription is simply a series of characters, possibly the entire alphabet in order. Unfortunately, this appears to be a fragment of a larger bone, so it's impossible to say for sure. Still, it's back to the drawing board for historians when it comes to considering the history of this particular language. Here in the 21st century, it's becoming increasingly common for men to use face creams and makeup. This isn't the start of a new habit, though. It's the rediscovery of an old one. In fact, it appears that men in China were using face cream as a cosmetic more than 2,700 years ago. The discovery of an ancient form of makeup or face cream in a bronze jar happened at the archaeological site of Liujiawa, northern China, in January 2021. Archaeologists and historians believe that the cream was used to make the faces of men appear to be white. This part of the site is known to have once been a nobleman's region of the ancient city, which was part of the vassal state of Rui. That implies that the use of the cream might have been restricted only to those of the ruling class. The cream itself is made from a combination of animal fats and a substance called moon milk, which is made from carbonate mud taken from caves. The mud turns white as it dries, hence the name. The reasons why an ancient Chinese aristocrat might want to whiten his face are unknown, other than perhaps being a way of distinguishing himself from the commoners around him. The Pazyryk rug is thought to be the oldest surviving rug or carpet in the world, and so is a testament to both the craftsmanship and sophistication of the ancient Pazyryk nomads of Siberia. It might not look like it's in great condition now, but its scuffs, marks, and tears can be forgiven when you take into account the fact that it will soon be 2,600 years old. The floor covering was found within the burial mound of a Scythian prince by Sergei Rudenko, a Russian archaeologist, in 1941. Perhaps the most surprising thing about it is that both in composition and style, it's very similar to many traditional rugs that are still made today. Materials like this wouldn't normally survive thousands of years, but we got lucky with the Pazyryk rug because the burial mound had been broken open long before Sergei found it, which exposed it to the freezing Mongolian cold and preserved everything inside it perfectly. While it may have been found in Siberia, experts can't say whether it was made there. The tomb was in the middle of what was once a busy trade route between China and Asia, so its origins could lie anywhere along that route. You might want to look away for the next few seconds if you're squeamish. Don't say we didn't warn you. In the 19th century, there lived a Frenchman who must have been the most heavily tattooed man of his era. When he died, his body was buried, but not before his skin had been removed and preserved. Here it is, tattoos and all. While preserving segments of tattooed skin as curiosities wasn't unheard of in the 19th century, skinning someone to the bone and preserving all of it is highly unusual. In fact, this is the only known example in Europe. The only other fully preserved human skin of this kind are in Japan. Based on what's inked on the Frenchman's skin, he must have been quite a character. The word bonheur, French for happiness, is written in large capital letters directly above his genitals. His skin has darkened in the years since his death, but in 2021, modern CT scanning technology was used to reveal all of his tattoos in full for the first time. He has 58 of them. Most of them are of humans, particularly a woman called Florine, who appears twice, and the presence of an anchor accompanied by the French for "Long live the fleet" suggests he was a naval officer. As grisly as his hide is, he probably donated it to medical science. Subscribe to the channel, turn on the notification bell, and enjoy watching new videos on my channel. Thanks for watching, and see you soon!